like to call this Transit Commission meeting to order. Madam Clerk, the roll call, please.
Thank you.
Deal with that.
Member Beauregard.
Present.
Member Dodge.
Present.
Member Freak. Member Grant. Member Longo. Member Mavritis.
Here.
Member Olson.
Present.
Member Pachareva.
Present.
Member Ratzlaff.
Present.
Member Riley.
Present.
Chair Cisco.
Present.
And we have regrets today from Member Morocco, and we have Regional Chair Gale joining us.
Thank you. Niagara region is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Adirondack, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara stands with all Indigenous peoples, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. Can I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda? Councillor Olson, Councillor Pachareva. Any questions? All those in favor vote electronically, I guess. No?
Raise hand in the chamber.
Okay, but
Yeah, they can just raise their hand.
well, I can't see if, unless they've got their video on, I can't see. Anyways, that's carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? There being none, can I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the minutes of the December 16th, 2025 meeting? Anybody want to move? So, Member Mavridis, would you be prepared to move this? And Member Beauregard to second it? Okay, that's on the floor. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Okay, so we have a presentation this evening, or this afternoon. Heather Talbot, Corporate Consultant, for the presentation on Niagara Transit Fleet Electrification Strategy and Implementation Study. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I was just introduced, but I'm Heather Talbot, Corporate Consultant. Over the last 2 years, I've served as the project manager for the Zero Emissions Study, working closely with WSP and Electra Energy Solutions. This work was completed alongside the master plan, which I also managed, so that our system growth strategy and our transition to zero emissions vehicles were developed together. This approach positions the Commission to expand service while seamlessly integrating electrification as Niagara Transit continues to grow. So the zero emissions strategy outlines what is needed to transition to a zero emissions fleet. It identifies the technical requirements, the capital investment, the implementation strategy, and the infrastructure upgrades that are required. The strategy builds on previous studies completed at St. Catharines Transit Commission and Niagara Falls Transit. Those studies evaluated both battery electric and hydrogen fuel cell bus technologies. The key objectives of the study were to demonstrate and calculate the reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, ensure operational continuity, and determine a cost-effective transition plan that ensures value to the regional taxpayer. Transitioning Niagara Transit to a fully electric fleet has significant environmental benefits. Full electrification reduces greenhouse gas emissions by up to 98%. That reduces, we are currently at over 16,000 tons annually, and a fully electrified fleet would be under 400 tons of CO2 annually. This is equivalent to removing 3,500 cars off the road each year. Oops, I went too far. I'll go back. The plan implements a phased technology approach. The St. Catharines Garage transitions first to battery electric buses. These are currently more widely adopted. And hydrogen was reviewed, but at the current cost of hydrogen would result in more than double the current fuel budget. So Niagara Falls transitions later. Given the proximity to Atura, a later transition allows for fuel cell technology to evolve and hydrogen pricing to decline. The plan has a structured 14-year transition to a fully electric fleet. Infrastructure upgrades occur in year 1 and year 5. Beginning in St. Catharines, phase 1 includes 2 years of planning and procurement, followed by a gradual 12-year rollout of battery electric buses. This aligns with the natural replacement cycle of vehicles. Garage upgrades and charger installations would be completed in stages to support bus deliveries, reduce risk, and ensure the system is ready as the electric fleet expands. Buses will be charged at the garage only in St. Catharines. Service routes originating out of St. Catharines Garage do not require on-route chargers. Niagara Falls receives a single-phased retrofit with garage upgrades completed in year 5 and electric operations beginning in year 6. The strategic delayed timing for Niagara Falls allows for the reevaluation of hydrogen, allowing time for hydrogen fuel cell technology to mature and costs to decline. Niagara Falls will require both depot and on-route charging, including 5 on-route chargers at the Welland Bus Terminal. These will be phased in over 5 years. Both garages will need their electrical services upgraded by the local utility company so that they can handle the extra power required for electric buses. In addition, the electrical system inside the garages will be improved to safely distribute the power where it's needed. Each site will also get a battery energy storage system, which stores electricity and helps manage peak demand and outages. Standby generators to ensure operations can continue during power interruptions. So due to the range limitations of battery electric buses, the fleet size will need to increase to maintain current service levels. 40-foot buses will increase from 122 in our fleet today to 129. That's a 6% increase. 60-foot buses, however, because of their long travel distances, will actually increase from 22 to 35. This is an increase of 60%. Paratransit remain unchanged. So transitioning to a full battery electric fleet would require an investment increase of over 50% more than diesel operations at the St. Catharines facility and over 80% more at the Niagara Falls facility. Combined, the Niagara Transit capital budget would need to spend an additional 66% to become fully electrified. While battery electric buses realize significant savings in operating costs, this is primarily through reduced diesel, vehicle replacements, including chargers, result in a net budget increase of more than 65% compared to diesel. For the Niagara Transit to transition to zero emissions fleet, the 12-year capital budget would need to increase by an additional $209 million. That would be $55 million upfront in garage upgrades and $154 million in fleet and charging equipment. So currently, our diesel fleet requires about $18 million a year as an annual replacement. We do get funding through ISIP and PGT, but in order to electrify, we would actually need to spend an additional $13 million a year. So the operating costs, that's the good news. The operating costs during the transition period were estimated to save $31.4 million over the 12 years. That would be $28 million in fuel and an estimated $4 million in maintenance. Once fully electrified, there would be an annual savings of about $4 million a year in the operating budget. So the plan, basically, St. Catharines emits more greenhouse gas emissions than Niagara Falls in the current business practice. That's primarily because they store more vehicles. But prioritizing its transition decarbonizes more buses in a faster time frame. So by year 10 of this plan, both garages reduce their greenhouse gas emissions by over 90%. That's a reduction of 14,000 tons annually of CO2. The transition supports Niagara Transit's climate goals, improves air quality, and reinforces the region's commitment to a low-carbon future. Electrification creates a healthier community. It eliminates tailpipe emissions, improves air quality in our neighborhoods and schools, and it modernizes the workforce through advanced technology requiring labor force training. So in summary, the roadmap shows that Niagara Transit can reduce greenhouse gas emissions by up to 98%. The plan is practical, phased responsibly, and aligned with our master plan and long-term growth strategy. However, the benefits come at a significant cost, more than 65% higher than our current diesel fleet. While electrification delivers major environmental gains and modernizes our system, it requires significant long-term investment. So while this plan outlines a 14-year rollout all in one kind of strategic alignment, there are ways that we can modify the plan that may be more palatable to cost pressures in our budget. And that's the end.
Thank you very much, Ms. Talbot. Are there any questions of the presenter? Do you have a button? Okay, I'm going to go, Chair, I'll come back to you. Member Ratzlaff.
Thank you, Chair, through you. Just a quick question. I'm not sure if I'm reading the math here properly, but with 209 million down, and then there's about 30 million in savings over the 12 years of implementation. And then after that, after it's fully implemented, you're looking at 4 million savings a year. I guess when you add that up, are you looking at cost recovery in 55 years, or am I doing the math correctly? Or are there other things to consider when we're thinking about cost recovery?
Ms. Talbot?
Through the chair. Yes, I think that's a good question because, we think that it's a one-time cost, right? This 208 million and will be fully electrified, except that every year, in order to replace those vehicles, we're spending, currently a diesel is 1.1 million. Every time we go to replace that, if it's electric, it is going to be around 1.7, 1.8. So that cost differential on our replacements is ongoing. And because our vehicles are replaced every 12 years, we actually never get the payback model because that 4 million will just go to offset the incremental costs that we'll incur every year through electrification at the current prices.
Member Ratzlaff?
Yeah, no, thank you. That's helpful. I thought there'd probably be other complications there, but I appreciate that answer.
Thank you. Chair Gale?
Thank you, Chair. I didn't think I was a member of this committee, so I thought I had to wait till the end. Am I right or wrong?
No, you go
Okay,
ahead.
very
You're the
good.
chair.
So through you to the presenter, what is the return on this? How many years?
Well, so we will save 4 million a year. Our net investment on fleet replacements are 13 million a year. So it's a net cost of 9 million a year with no upswing except for the environmental benefits.
So your return on this is in decades.
It never returns because all it does, the savings just goes to mitigate some of the increased costs.
Okay, and what's the average length of a bus in time?
12 years.
Oh, that's why it's a 12-year plan. Do you expect to
Yeah,
replace
so-
them all then?
Yeah, the plan was set up so that basically if we decided today, how would we roll it out? We can modify that rollout. It could be a 20-year plan. We can change how we roll it out. We may want to only bring in 1/3 of the fleet that's replaced each year. But the plan was kind of set up to really look at what are the benefits if we jumped all in and what it would cost.
Okay, and through you, Chair, what's the incentives on this, or grants? Is there any from the feds or the province?
Well, so right now, the Permanent Transit Fund, we can use those funds up until about 2028, 29 to purchase diesel. After that, it needs to be electric vehicles. But at current price, in order to keep us equal, we need federal or provincial funding that basically covers about 40% of the incremental cost to keep us neutral.
Okay, so I'm trying to boil that down. Dollar-wise, is there a dollar-wise you have in grants that are available to us or no?
Nothing currently.
Okay, and hydrogen, you've got down here, further maturity, further market maturity and cost reductions. So in other words, we really don't know with hydrogen if there'll be savings.
Currently, the capital for a hydrogen bus will be more than a diesel currently, and the cost of hydrogen is more than twice the cost of diesel. So our $7 million fuel budget would be $17 million if we transition to hydrogen, and we would have almost double the capital cost.
And that's even with the new plant in Niagara Falls.
Until the cost of hydrogen comes down, it puts a big pressure on our operating budget.
And my last question, Chair. Was there a thought of working these in rather than going the whole fleet? In other words, buying 5 for the next 12 years or 10 for the next 12 years and see how it went?
Absolutely. So I think the study was to just build this plan as if we were going to do it. And then the staff takeaway would be, how can we actually do this with the funding that we have, taking advantage of any external funding sources. As you can see later in the agenda, we do have a pilot coming forward that looks at how to introduce some technologies on a cost-neutral basis.
Okay, and one more, sorry. The bus on demand or the on-demand vehicles, is there a chance of electrifying those?
Absolutely. Those, we have, through this electrification study, they've done a pilot with the on-demand because those are level 2 chargers. They're cheaper chargers. The cost to purchase the vehicles aren't as substantially higher, but those will be kind of ways that we start to look at the strategy when we redevelop our forecast, when we blend the electrification and the master plan growth, and something that we can kind of move forward that's more economically feasible for the taxpayer.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Chair. I won't make any comments because I'm not allowed to, let alone I'm too new to this board.
Not at
Thank
this
you.
stage, but there is a report coming up under items for consent items. Member Cisco.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to Ms. Talbot, I guess you talked about not needing to necessarily do all of this in 12 years. You can extend it out. I'm just curious, with respect to the electrification, how much of those costs would be necessary regardless of how long the implementation plan? How much of those costs would be necessary front-loaded at the beginning in terms of charging infrastructure and upgrades, et cetera, to the transit storage facilities?
So 55 million was identified in facility upgrades, 26 million in St. Catharines, and 28 million in Niagara Falls. So if we were to move forward with a slower phase-in, and also St. Catharines, because of the service territory, doesn't require en route chargers. It would be a better feasible plan to electrify St. Catharines first, look at the investments to upgrade the utility grid and the charging possibilities in St. Catharines, and then roll that out. That again, so we phased it in this plan over 5 years, going to Niagara Falls in 5, but we can lengthen that plan because realistically we can replace the buses in St. Catharines, which are just over 50% of our fleet, over a longer time period, and actually leave Niagara Falls the way it is, and then see how hydrogen plays out in the future or as technology changes in the future. But we would be looking at 25 million, 26 million, sorry, facility upgrades. I don't think those all have to be in year one, but a fairly significant amount would need to be pre-work to allow us to move forward with the electrification.
So at a minimum, then we would have to front load probably, I mean, in and around 30 to 35 million for those capital upgrades plus the purchases of the new buses just to get started with, you know, the very slow phase-in project. You're still looking at 30 to 35 million in the first few years.
Absolutely. If we went to a fully electric bus, there are options, just like our pilot, that are electric diesel hybrids, and that might be a phase-in technology that we could pilot in St. Catharines while we pilot the hydrogen, dual hydrogen in Niagara Falls.
When you say electric diesel, are you talking about like a plug-in hybrid, or is this the same kind of electric diesel that St. Catharines had been purchasing in the late 2000s, early 2010s, but then stopped because the actual greenhouse gas reductions were basically non-existent as compared to the newer diesel engines?
So these would be retrofitted buses. They wouldn't necessarily be purchasing. The cost to purchase a hybrid diesel electric is the same cost as an electric. But the technology that exists that we're going to be piloting for the hydrogen, dual hydrogen retrofit is also possible with electric diesel retrofit, in which case we can actually take older vehicles, put in $500,000, get another 8 years out of them, which is substantially cheaper than buying new, and pilot it to see how it operates.
Okay, but would that still require the $26 million in capital upgrades?
No, it wouldn't. The load on the grid would not be as significant, but we would have to look into what type of grid upgrades we would need to start that pilot.
So do we have a ballpark on what that CapEx would look like from a facility standpoint?
No, we haven't looked into that option yet.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all my questions to this point. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Cisco. Member Pachiriva.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Reddecup. Thank you, Heather, for the report. First question, so electrification is important. But transit has a positive impact on the environment already by removing cars off the road. For the $200 million investment that we're looking at, what kind of impact could we have if we stayed with diesel? Have we done that comparison?
Well, this is, I think, so are you asking as far as reducing greenhouse gas emissions with diesel?
Yeah, and the cost. Like if we kept going down the road of replacing diesel with diesel, cost comparison, 200 million versus.
So our current budget, our current annual replacement with diesel is 18 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we would continue budgeting versus 31 million a year. Like, I wanted to make it very clear because there are a lot of questions about when are we electrifying, when are we moving. It is very expensive. And you're right, we do have already a net positive on reducing cars from the road. Okay. But I think there are ways around mitigating some of the costs and still seeing some environmental benefits.
Okay. Follow up, if I may, Chair. So, and again, I mean, the federal government recently just scrapped the EV mandates on passenger vehicles. So, I mean, the person who's riding the bus, I think their main concern is they get to their destination on time. I might be wrong, but it's not how it's powered, but that they get there on time. So, like, looking at something like this, I think is a little premature until the federal government stands up and says, these are going to be the rebates that we provide to help do this. Like,
is there a question coming?
Oh, it's
Member Pachiriva?
well, okay.
There is a report on. You can speak to that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
How are we going to pay for it?
Well, I think, through the chair, I think the plan is here. And if the federal government announced tomorrow that they are going to dump a certain amount of money for replacements, we are ready to go. And I think that's the idea of the plan. We have done our due diligence. We know how to structure the vehicles, where the charging infrastructure will be. We're in a good position to move forward if that federal government, A, says you can't buy diesel anymore, or B, we're going to start subsidizing to make it cost effective.
Okay, so without anything though, how are we going to make up that $13 million a year gap? Is it going to be fare increases or like, how do we get there?
I don't make the budget decisions, but I doubt Ms. Stout would bring that forward for approval.
Okay.
Okay, we'll get to that when we get to the report. Member Olson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. I was wondering about the difference between the, let's take, for example, the 20 to 35 units for the 60-foot buses, BEB buses. Is that because of the range on the vehicles? Is that why you have to have spare buses? Is that the addition for that, the incremental number there?
Yes, it is.
So that's something in the neighborhood of probably $50 million right there for those buses.
Absolutely.
So the 40-foot now, so the technological risk here is that if it stays the same, then how much of the budget is based on, say, there's no improvement in the ranges? If there was an improvement in the range, this budget would change entirely, I would think, eh?
Yes, it would. And the fuel cell technology has a longer range, so it's often a one-to-one replacement, but the cost of that capital is a little bit more money, and the technology is not fully evolved, and the operating costs are greater.
And you say fuel cell, that means hydrogen, is that what you mean?
That's right.
So, yeah, okay. So we would escape the $50 million if we did that, and then we'd probably escape a lot of the different chargers and collectors and things that we have as well.
That's correct.
I'm just wondering about that. So $50 million because of the ranges of the electric buses are not up to the standard that our current diesel buses are.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Is there anyone else? So, if I might, so this is a plan that's being presented that could be operational if money was available. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. We wanted to do our due diligence, bringing together the past plans that were provided by St. Catharines and Niagara Falls, and put a cohesive plan together for Niagara Transit. And because some of the federal money has been stated as beyond certain years, we can no longer use that permanent transit fund for diesel buses. It allows us to be ready.
And there's nothing in the 2026 Niagara Transit budget that would accommodate any of this work proceeding in 2026. Any decisions on that would have to be made for the 2027 budget.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Talbot. Okay, that takes us then to items for consideration, and the first item is NTC 1 2026 Hydrogen Dual Fuel Demonstration Project. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Olson. Councillor Longo. That report is on the floor for questions or comments. Councillor Olson.
Thank you, Chair. I was looking at the financial statements as well. And does a portion of the contribution to this come from reserves or like I think the number within the reserve is 2 million times 2 or something like that, or 3 maybe? I don't know. Is that where the source of funding is?
Ms. Stout, did you want to take that?
Thanks for the question, Member Olson. Through the chair, the funding of Niagara Transit's component of the demonstration project is coming directly from provincial gas tax. So it will be coming from our PGT reserve, which we did not recognize through the 2025 budget as well. There is sufficient funding there in the reserve in PGT to fund the entirety of this project without having to ask for an in-year budget adjustment to capital.
And the question again about the contribution of the hydrogen fuel costs, that's a zero effect arrangement we have with the fuel company? Is that what we've got there for that?
So through the chair, yes. Our partner in this demonstration project is Atura Power, an operating arm of Ontario Power Generation, and they're putting up the fuel for this project in kind.
At no cost? Oh, okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Member Olson. Member Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just want to make sure this you have to delay on my end. Yeah, I guess just to provide a couple of short comments, I normally want to be very proactive, and I think this is, in theory, a really good concept for the future. I just don't think our commission is quite at that point, personally. I think there's just too many liabilities and unknowns at this time. So, Mr. Chair, when the appropriate time comes up to vote on this, I would ask that there be a recorded vote, and because I have serious concerns about this moving forward at this point.
Yep, for sure. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak to this item? And so I had a question because I thought Ms. Talbot mentioned when she was giving her presentation on the last matter that this pilot project could be modified to use electricity and diesel.
So to the chair and for other members' information, what Ms. Talbot was speaking to was there is a similar retrofit technology that can take an existing older diesel bus and retrofit it to be essentially a hybrid with electric propulsion. This project is hydrogen and diesel as a mix. There is an opportunity to take a look at in the future doing something very similar with electric and diesel as a mix. Currently, I believe Milton Transit is running a project on the electrification of an existing chassis. And we're watching their demonstration project with much interest, as I'm sure if we're successful in this application, they will be watching ours.
And if I might, I see in the recommendation, the provincial gas tax says 1.612 million. The fourth bullet on page 2, second bullet on page 2, makes reference to 1.9 million. Is that, I guess that includes both capital and operating?
Through the chair, yes, it captures both of those costs.
And so the provincial gas tax, we're trying to direct specifically to capital projects, correct?
Through the chair, yes, we've been reducing our operating on provincial gas tax since amalgamation, so we're dedicating it to capital.
Okay, and by bringing this forward, you and staff are suggesting that this is, at this time, the best expenditure of that gas tax money.
To the chair and for the members, this is a project that has significant capabilities to reduce our capital costs over time if this project bears out the data set that we're hoping that it does. It is like any investment that this board or regional council makes in capital fleet. It has risks associated with the technologies that come along with it. It is a good dollar for dollar if it bears out in the development, and would certainly change the game for us going forward on our replacement schedules for our 10-year capital plans, as well as potentially reducing our greenhouse gases over time.
Okay, if there are no other questions, then Madam Clerk, would you do the recorded vote, please?
Member Beauregard.
In favor.
Member Dodge.
Yes.
Member Longo.
Opposed.
Member Mavridis.
Yes.
Member Olson.
Support.
Member Pachareva.
In favor.
Member Ratzlaff.
In favor.
Member Riley.
Oppose.
Member Cisco.
In favor.
That's carried, Chair.
Okay, so that is carried. That takes us then to the next report, which is NTC 2 2026 Niagara Transit Commission Artificial Intelligence Policy. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Member Pachariva and Member Riley. Any questions or comments regarding that report? Does staff want to add anything? You don't have to. There's no obligation. Okay, then sorry, Member Longo.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to commend staff for bringing this forward. Artificial intelligence, we really don't know where it's going to go, but I think it's very important that we look at this. I just do want to bring up the very last line of the report on page 2. And again, as I mentioned, we don't know where this is going to go, but it says AI is intended to enhance staff capacity by expediting routine or time-consuming tasks, not to replace jobs or people. Now, I'm certainly not here looking to have anybody lose their jobs, but I felt I needed to comment that artificial intelligence, I hope, has us reduce jobs eventually, like it has to. Every published business report or annual report I read from any public company says it's going to do that. So I'm just a little concerned at that line there. And again, I'm not here today looking to get rid of people, but artificial intelligence, we have to understand that in time, hopefully, it does reduce human capital and makes things more efficient. And again, I just felt I needed to say that, make a comment on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from the general manager on this, because my understanding is that artificial intelligence actually where people work, so that may or may not eventually reduce all employment numbers, might just shift what people do. But general manager, any comments on that?
Thanks for your comments, Member Longo, and through the chair. I think the reason behind the inclusion in the staff report is to provide a little comfort inside our own organization. Without the benefit of a crystal ball, I don't really know where artificial intelligence is going to touch the transit industry or how it's going to change us over time. One of the things that I think it's going to do, to the Vice Chair's point, is that it is going to change where we have capacity and where we do not. And it might change how we work, but I don't know that it's necessarily going to reduce our workforce. So that's why you see it noted in the report. The interesting part about the policy itself is that we're out again. Niagara Transit is leading and is ahead of the game. And we certainly want to have the right policies in place as things change and as technology changes around us.
Member Longo, anything further?
No, and again, I understand where we're coming from here. I just wanted to make it clear that, again, there's no doubt about it that in time, and who knows when in the future, we're probably going to have driverless buses. So we need to be prepared for that reality out there. If we're going to have driverless cars in the next 2 or 3 years, we will have driverless buses in the next 10 to 15 years. And again, I can't guarantee that, but everything I read points in that direction. So we'll see where it goes in time.
Fair enough. There are no other speakers. Please vote. All those in favor, you can raise your hands, I guess. Opposed? That is carried. That takes us to NTC 3 2026 Local Area Municipality Request for Enhanced Service Policy. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Mayor Cisco and Member Beauregard. That report is on the floor for any questions or comments. I don't see any. All those in favor of the recommendation? Opposed? That is carried. NTC 4 2026 2005 year-end results and transfer report. Mover and a seconder. I see Member Ratzlaff and Member Longo. That report's on the floor for any questions or comments. It's not a particularly inquisitive group this afternoon. Okay, all those in favor of the recommendations? And opposed? That is carried. That takes us to the consent items, and I do believe that NTCC 2 2026 should be dealt with separately. That's the one that deals with the electrification strategy and implementation roadmaps. Can I have a mover and a seconder for that? Member Mavridis, Member Cisco. That's on the floor for any further questions or comments. Member Pashriva, did you want to make any statements about this? Or do you just want to save those for questions?
Yeah, I mean, cat's out of the bag, right? So it's just the cost, right? I mean, you guys, at the region just went through a, lengthy budget process, and it's like, where's it going to come from? That's my big thing, right? If the feds and the province steps forward with, incentives and rebates and you name it, then yeah, I'm 100% in. But to go to the ridership and the taxpayers and come up with $200 million, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, my understanding is that this would be a 2027 budget item, and,
Okay.
and presumably funding from upper levels of government is important. General Manager?
So thanks for your comments and your question of the presenter earlier. I think it's important to note through the chair that I think where you were going is what is the cost versus benefit. And, from the perspective of the benefit of electrification, I think we understand the benefits of electrification. The cost, obviously, when you prepare something like this and you put it in front of a board of directors or eventually a regional council through the budget process, it's disappointing that it is, it's so onerous and so expensive to do the right thing, right?
Yeah.
So the question of, what happens if we use that same amount of money or even half of that amount of money, to continue business as usual? What happens is the master plan continues. We continue to create a network that has increased frequency and increased coverage. It might even happen faster with that level of investment. But ultimately, to the presenter's point, to Heather's point, the federal government has been fairly clear, although they have clawed back their subsidization, they've been very clear that they are not going to be very interested in funding diesel at this point. And certainly that's, what we're hearing provincially as well. So we have to have a plan to at least be ready for when either the rules change or the funding does. But your point is well made that, with the business as usual model that we have, based on the costs that we know today, we would be farther faster with the same level of investment. It would be nice to be able to pull the pin and do the right thing right away. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen immediately. But we wanted the board to have the benefit, at least to see what the overall electrification of the entire system would look like. And then we can start bringing forward things in subsequent budgets for you to really get a piece of, what do we do first? And by then, I'm hopeful that the permanent transit fund at the federal level will be more landed, and we'll have a little bit more of an understanding of what upper tiered levels of government are willing to put for skin in the game.
And through you, Chair Redekop. Carla, thank you very much for that. And I appreciate the report. I mean, it's no different than having a shovel-ready project, right? So when the funds do come, and, you know, we can all say our prayers and cross our fingers that they will get there, we've got a plan ready to implement. But, you know, just as status quo and looking at this, it just scares the you-know-what out of me. So, thank you.
We don't want you to be afraid. Member Cisco.
Thank you, Chair. And I appreciate Member Pachariva. I said a couple of the things that I'm thinking. I think the price tag on this is very, very high, but I also am a big believer that you have shovel-ready projects so that when a new fund is announced, you can say, hey, look, we already have this. And if someone's willing to cut us a $200 million check, then we can move forward. From my perspective, though, and I think this is probably a perspective shared by many around the table, there are a lot of improvements to transit service that we want to see made, you know, in terms of frequency, in terms of the speed of the routes, in terms of the connectivity across Niagara, that would take a higher ranking in my mind over spending $200 million to just electrify what we have. Because the reality is, and I think someone said it, you know, transit is the environmental option, full stop. Whether it's using diesel or it's electric, it's still the environmental option. And I don't want us to allow the perfect to become the enemy of the good here, because any expansion in the transit service that we can make, whether it's going to 15-minute frequency or, you know, reaching out through the master plan into all of the parts of the region that have demonstrated they want transit service, excuse me, I want to see us taking those steps first. If the feds come forward, like I said, with a $200 million check and say, hey, electrify what you've got. Oh, okay. And if staff can find a way to work this into our budget over the years at a slower, significantly slower pace, so that we're not incurring big capital costs up front, which are going to take away from other things we need to be doing, I can be in favor of those. But I like I said, I appreciate the work that's gone into this, and I agree with Member Pachariva. It's good to have this just in case. The only request I would make is, I know this has been a talking point among some councillors in St. Catharines. I would imagine many of the local area municipalities, there are probably councillors who have talked about, oh, we need to electrify buses. We need to electrify buses. Can we make sure that this report and the accompanying information is forwarded to the local area municipalities as well? So that our board, our commission representatives can say to their fellow councillors, we looked at it. This is how much it costs. Because I think sometimes people act like electrification is just, you know, snap your fingers and now the system just works. And we got some budget presentations at the region this past year that seem to indicate that, oh, it wouldn't be that expensive. And I think this report lays bare that it actually very much is. So if I could make that request as maybe a friendly amendment to the motion, that it be received, that it also be forwarded to the LAMs.
Yep, take that as direction, and I see the general manager is jotting that down. Thank you very much, Member Cisco. Chair Gale.
I'm pressing the button. Okay, it's not lit up, but okay, you can hear me? Thank you. And Mr. Chair, the last two speakers hit everything I wanted to say. I would hate to be the regional chair that goes to Waynfleet or Smithville and tries to explain this one without other things happening on this, but getting our ducks in a row in case the feds come up and tomorrow and said the buses are all free, let's go. I get that plan. The only thing is, if they do something like this, we'll call a special meeting of council immediately to approve something like this. But regardless of that, I like the idea, Mr. Chair, of St. Catharines, of trying buses in St. Catharines in a small way in downtown to see how this works. Because I can see a lot of flaws with the long runs going to Fort Erie or places like this, but last speakers, especially Mr. Pachariva, really hit everything that I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for recognizing that's a long way to Fort Erie. If there are no other speakers, I would ask you to vote on this report. All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Are there any other consent items that anyone would like removed from the package? If not, then can I have a mover and a seconder to take the consent items that remain as a block? Member Cisco? And surely someone else. Member Riley. So those items are now on the floor for any comments or questions. Councillor Olson.
A question for staff, with respect to, 26, C426, which is the, commingled transit statistics. Do we have any figures, on the number of turn downs and refusals that we have when somebody calls to make an appointment for paratransit or specialized transit or the commingled transit?
Mr. Zara.
Through the chair. So specific municipal figures at this present time, we do not. We are working with our contractor and service provider, RideCo, to obtain that level of granularity. I can say with confidence we've made some headway since the original request came in summer of last year, around that time. The data that we did provide in the report is that work being demonstrated not only operationally but with RideCo through our team here, Heather being here and Emma working with them to get what we were comfortable providing, not from an evasive perspective, but something that has some more accuracy behind it, as outlined with some of the nuances described in the report as well. So in the short order, we would have that for you in the coming quarterly reports, the collective ones, not the individual ones, but soon, if that helps or appeases the question.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Do we have a gross number for all of the items I mentioned there?
Mr. Zara.
The last time I saw a number was around 85% acceptance, or leading me to think it was 15 for refusals or failure.
I'm going to pass that one to Heather Schick, who has the figure on her head, or in her head, whereas I don't have it in front of me.
Ms. Talbot.
Through the chair. So originally, earlier in the year of 2025, we were at about a 15% denial rate.
Yeah.
And then we have been working with the service provider, and we've been changing some of the parameters of the search, and that percentage has gone down under 8% in the last quarter. So we've seen a drastic improvement in that. And I do want to say too that when we look at the data the way it's presented right now, it's a user denial within an hour, but that user may not have got a ride at 10:50, but did get a ride at 11:15. So in actual fact, they did get a ride. It just was only identified as a miss in that hour and not a miss in the end. So we do feel that that number is higher than who's actually being denied, but that's the best information we have at current.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Anyone else? If not, all those in favor of the recommendations in these reports or to receive these reports? Opposed, if any? That is carried. Are there any items of other business that anyone wishes to raise? If not, do any members wish to go into closed session with respect to report NTC 5/2026? Member Riley, would you like to move then that we go into closed session? And
I'll move that. Thank you.
Seconder? Member Olson. Okay, so before we go into closed session, I'll remind board members of your obligation respecting closed session. Those who are participating electronically in the closed session must ensure that no other person is in the location from which they are taking part in the meeting, or that any other persons cannot hear or see any of the confidential deliberations taking place. If this is not possible, you must withdraw from the meeting until it has been reconvened into open session. Okay, so we're going into closed session. Anybody opposed other than the chair? No, okay. We're going into closed session. Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder for confidential report NTC 5/2026, please? Member Cisco and Member Pashariva. Are there any questions or comments? Then all those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That means the next meeting, since there's no further business to conduct today, the next meeting will be held on Tuesday, April the 21st, 2026 at 3 p.m. here in the council chamber at the regional headquarters. So this meeting is adjourned.